Hello and welcome to Studio 12. Joining us today is Ms. Tram T. Kim Dew, a chairperson of European Federation of Theosophical Society. Welcome. You are coming to Slovenia on a regular yearly basis now, and we talked before. And last time we talked about theosophy and social change. And today we're going to talk about wisdom, especially the foundations of wisdom. What is the foundation and platform from where wisdom can emerge? And to start with the first question, when we look at the world around us, like it seems that it's gone a little wild, like the people in the world would lose their fundamental common sense. What is happening, in your opinion, in the world?
You see, your first question is really the core of our conversation. Where does it come from, wisdom? I think that we can go many ways and try to find out what is the origin of wisdom. Many religions talk about this. Many philosophies, many thinkers try to sort out what is it. But finally, if really one pondered over the subject with depth, seriousness, earnestness, one can come to this temporary conclusion that wisdom is the road that leads every researcher and seeker to the core of existence. And therefore, wisdom is a kind of, if I may say so, inserted, built in the system, right from the beginning, right from manifestation. Manifestation is when existence came into existence, came to exist as we know it now. So wisdom is inserted in it, inbuilt. Otherwise, we cannot find it.
And you mean by system, you mean life is a system, not a society?
Yes, inside life itself,
Yeah.
there is wisdom. This is why we can discover. Otherwise, how can find something which is outside the system?
Okay.
Yeah. And then coming to the second development of your question, the word is a little bit wide. I think that you can also feel it. By meaning by wide, I think that there is a kind of loss of good common sense because individuals either lost their capacity of thinking or never learn to think. So they just live on the mode of being pushed by outer circumstances. This is one point. And inwardly, they are pushed by their own desires. So that outside, there are always appeals, attractions for something. And inside this, the desire to take hold of things, of temptation. So that individuals who do not think will go on the very automatic mode. Meaning desire, achievement of desire, struggling. So the struggling for getting what one desires now projected itself outside with conflict. And the conflicts outside at a certain time, because interest, egoistic interest is behind, conflicts will turn out to be war. Unavoidably. For some time. Because it is like by our own egoistic desire, we are building up a kind of skeleton where we just design the form of war. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So meaning that war starts in the mind, in egoistic way of thinking, and not somewhere else. And when it bursts out into the form of war, people start to cry and say, what is this war again? But let them try to pause, think, and watch over their own mode of living. In that way, everyone can observe that everyone is solidarily responsible for everything which exists in the world.
Okay. Now we talked quite a lot about different things. First you said that wisdom is a part of the system, life system. Then you told us that people stop thinking, right? In a way.
Don't feel like to think.
Thinking.
Yes.
And
they want to reproduce a scheme of thinking made by a system, by a party, by a group, by whatever. But they're saving themselves from endeavoring of thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you told us also that the ego and the conflict starts in our own mind first, then the world is a reflection of our way of thinking.
Yes.
So how is the thinking and wisdom like connected? So can we get to the wisdom with thinking?
Thinking is the starting point to go through the tunnel of ignorance to get to wisdom. This is a way of saying very, I would say this quite symbolical, to say all of us are in the tunnel and we try to light up our lamp to clear our way and to find out a way to get out of the tunnel. Our tunnel, everyone has one. And we cannot give our part to the world if we have not lit our lamp first. Meaning, think ourselves by ourselves and not reproduce the thought of the others. Now, your question is how to link the thinking process with wisdom. The thinking process is a kind of gift to human beings. If you observe in nature, I think that in one of our previous conversations, we have talked about consciousness a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. And we had said that every creature in existence has consciousness. Even a stone has consciousness. But because its time of growing is so long that you cannot be aware of it. But when you look at a rose quartz, I happened to see rose quartz of 2 meters, more than this high. And it spoke to me. There's something strong, there's something alive. I would say even more alive compared with some human beings. Sorry, it is not politically correct. But everything has consciousness. Now, on the whole scales of evolution, only human beings have received this capacity of thinking. But they have to deserve to learn to think. And by thinking, they think more and they think more rightly. What is to think? To think is not to produce thought, as we said. The system tells you, think like that. Okay, you can start with, there's no harm. But starting with that does not mean that you have to continue all over and reproducing the scheme. If you do like that, you are working against evolution. Because evolution not only grows smoothly, but evolution grows also by leaps. You see, from time to time, in the whole system, you will see, observe, it is historically proved, scientifically also. At a certain time, you have a kind of leaps out of it, and it is breaking through. You have mastered the system, thinking of the system. Now something new pops up. And if one does not dare to go that way, one will be imprisoned in the whole system. And nature will take care of it. You can see the whole historical scheme. You know what I'm talking about. So nature will take over. Some people will say politically it is economical. Yes, okay. But it is the whole evolution of every facet of a system. It will come to a break if there is no element of freshness coming and bringing the thing towards a new future. I mean, new promises, new openness, new thinking, because it is inserted in the process of thinking itself. Because the thinking is not repetition. At the beginning, yes, because one has to, I would say, train the mind. And the mind, when it is trained, one has to go further and bring something new, and not repetition. You can see the absurdity of it by itself.
Okay. Let's come back to the wisdom. So we were talking like, okay, the thinking is the first step, and maybe you can be like repetition. But when you develop new ways of thinking, you bring freshness to the thinking, and then you can come to the wisdom at some point. But how would you define wisdom? What is wisdom?
What is wisdom? This is a very interesting question. You see, wisdom is not only knowledge. You have many types of knowledges. As a child, we have learned how to read, how to speak, how to write. And then as a teenager, we learn how to think. Meaning we have to come through all the process of emotions, meaning hormones. And then coming to a point that without being able to master completely 100%, one can see it and can be part of ourselves, independent, and then think. You cannot think under the influence of emotions and hormones. Hormones provide you emotions fighting everything, but not thinking. To think, all the part of emotions should be cool, cool down. To take it and give a distance, give a distance to everything, so that you can see it from afar and not yourself involved in it. You see? And then, this is the starting point. Now, the main question of yours is, what is wisdom? Wisdom is what I would say is the sublimation of all knowledges. What is sublimation? It is a term that the alchemists are fond of. You see there in the process, you have the upper part and the lower part. When it is sublimated, you don't have any material support, but still the thing is there. And in the lower part, you have crystallization, meaning that in some process, you can make it solid, the matter solid. So you have the whole range of things, a solidified matter and matter sublimated. Now, wisdom is the sublimation of all knowledges, meaning that you can have many kinds of knowledges, technical knowledges. You can be an expert, mathematician, physicist, alchemist, chemist, whatever. But wisdom is when all the knowledges all together are orientated towards one direction. It is to the spiritual growth of humanity. If a mathematician or a physicist just are expert and become a producer of weapons, the knowledge cannot be a contribution towards wisdom, because all the knowledge is there, in this case, are aiming at destruction and not building up something for the goodness, for the well-being of humanity. So in the core of wisdom, there is goodness first, meaning love. There cannot be wisdom without love. And in fact, everything is consistent. If you went through some philosophies, some thinking processes, you will see that the basis of consciousness is love, compassion. We have talked about it briefly in some of our previous conversation, but the basis of consciousness is that love, compassion, and the Buddhists develop it very well in the. So, all out of this, all the knowledges one can get ought to aim at this love, universal love, compassion, in order to transform, in order to sublimate the core of the knowledge into wisdom, and not elsewhere, and not otherwise. Because one can be an expert, being at the top of everything without love. It is just an expert.
Okay.
And not a wise man.
Okay.
You see?
2 short questions. It's like you said, the wisdom is the part of the system, right?
Yes.
Is the wisdom endless, or does it expand? Like in the system way of thinking?
Very interesting question.
Or is it just there, that you have like just limited to wisdom somewhere in the system, then you have to get to it? This is like the first question. And the second question is, many spiritual, esoteric pathways would say, you cannot reach the wisdom on the mental level. You have to go beyond mental level. And we are talking so much about thinking, so I'm like asking, what kind of thinking will get you to the wisdom, right? Because you said that you
very
have
interesting.
To,
Very interesting. I take the second question first.
Okay.
You see, many people pretend to be beyond the mind. They say, "Oh, I am not a mind people. I am people of the heart, somebody of heart." But dear friend, you cannot go beyond something unless you have it. Going beyond something is to master this thing. So, going beyond the mind is to master the mind, meaning you master the whole process of thinking. You know what is it, and not play with words, just saying, "I am of the heart." What is heart? The heart, not the heart, physical heart. The heart is the core of everything, meaning the essential, the essence. The heart of knowledge is the essence of knowledge, and it is wisdom. Okay? Now, the heart means that you feel things without going through the process of reasoning. How many people can do it? Many pretenders. Of course, they are a very small number, very intuitive, and it is growing. Why? Because they have done the job of mastering the thinking process at a certain time. So they come to this, what we call the intuitive intelligence, meaning the heart, because you can see a thing and you get to the core of it at once. Now, we try to be honest. With integrity, we cannot say that we have this kind of capacity. It can come. But who are we to say we are such the thing? It is possible, and logically it should come if the work is well done. You see? So to go beyond something is to master this thing completely. So when you are told that the esoteric teaching is to go beyond the mind, true, because it teaches us how to go beyond the mind, meaning that first we have to learn how to think, to go to that. Otherwise we just presume, just imagine, speculate. It is so obvious and consistent, and it is also the thinking process. Not to swallow what one is told. What is esoteric? Esoteric is just, it is not revealed to the big number of people. not to everyone, but it is known. Otherwise, if it is unknown, so it is unknown, but it is not esoteric. You follow what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It is just unknown. Then the thinking process aimed at discovering the unknown and starting with knowledge. You see, we have been living in big technological ignorance. Think about the Middle Age and now. Think about just 1 century behind and now. So we are moving. It is technological progress. Now, on the field of wisdom also, on the level of consciousness, we are moving, we are growing. But, this is a phenomenon of opposites. When there is a small number moving towards wisdom, there is this part moving towards materialistic life, meaning denying whatever, it is not material. So this gap is growing bigger and bigger. And at a certain time, it will break. And it is just, the way it is.
Okay.
You see? And then wisdom also is preparing oneself to take the road toward this part and not to sink in materialistic way of life and walk the road towards something for the time unknown, but yet something from our heart. We know that it is true. So we take the choice of that one and not this one.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Okay.
Now your question about wisdom.
Yeah.
If it is inbuilt in the system, will it grow endlessly or not? Now, I think that we have to go a little bit further in our view of existence. I said a very technical word of manifestation. Manifestation is that when the first particle came into existence and gave the origin to the whole universe and the cosmos, this is the starting of existence, which is called manifestation. So, wisdom is inbuilt in it. Okay? Now, we are now in a very complex situation, and most of the time we are in ignorance. We are trying to speculate about what is what. Of course, by speculation, we can ask this question: is wisdom growing endlessly? Is the system? The system, for the time being, is endless in our eyes. But everything which exists should have an end. The duration will be eonic, meaning eons and eons, but it will end someday,
Mm-hmm.
some moment. And of course, at the ending of thing, there's the ending also of wisdom, because it is inbuilt. Now, what remains? What remains? This also is the question of many thinkers and philosophers in the past. What remains if everything is dissolved? Something should remain, logically,
Mm-hmm.
because nature cannot admit void. This is also a famous saying. What remains? We talk about the sublimation of matter. What remains? I have to use this word. It is the spirit of all things, meaning the essence, the sublimation of everything which has existed. And in the core of it, the essence of it, it is wisdom sublimated. Nobody is there to call it wisdom, because wisdom exists only when there is a mind confronting, discovering, finding it. Now there's nobody, so there's no wisdom. It is very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
No wisdom because there's no people. But still, something is there. And some philosopher in the past, when asked about it, he answered to the question, what remains when everything is dissolved? He said, goodness, meaning love. This is the core of everything there, again.
Okay. let us now talk about access to the wisdom. So how somebody can access it, right? And we mostly talk about how individual can access it. Okay, do your own thinking process, go beyond yourself, train yourself. But how about on a wider scale? Can like organizations, institutions like help provide support that more people at the same time access wisdom or not?
Institutions never help people to accede to wisdom. It can help in a very limited way. If I say the institution does not help, then it is hopeless. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
We are not working on the basis of an institution, but still institutions do exist. Now institutions, whatever it is, I include also religions in it. It is serious to say that I include religions in institutions. No institution never has given help to human beings to accede to wisdom. It can prepare a little bit, meaning that, of course, humanity is so vast that some religions would say, you better behave, don't do this, don't do that, because it is not moral, it is not ethical. Okay, all is okay. Some people need it. I know we also need it. But we don't need somebody to tell us. We have to learn to find out what is right and what is wrong, and to do it on this basis of discernment, of our own discrimination. Now religions help in that way for the big mass of people. Institution cannot help people to get to wisdom, because getting to wisdom, moving towards wisdom, is an individual decision and process. It is the maturation of thinking, so that at a certain point, the individual naturally, unavoidably asks the question, what is it? Who am I? When an individual starts to ask the question, who am I? The next question comes, where I'm going? And next question, what I'm doing? And then what I'm doing with my life. You see, it is the whole chain of things. One cannot stop at one question and then consider it. It is impossible. So moving towards this chain of questions, it is an individual initiative. No institution will tell you, do that. And it is not any help, not of any help, any institution.
Okay, let us come to the beginning,
Yes.
to the first question, right? So we said, okay, the world is going a little wild, and the world lost fundamental common sense, right?
Yes.
Then now we came to some sort of conclusion, okay, it's an individual process. But within individual process, do we have time, to make the world a better place as soon as possible? Because it seems, okay, if we wait for every individual to find his or her own wisdom, will we manage, to still hold together the society?
Well, you see, this question is very often asked, because somehow we feel a little bit impatient and a little bit hopeless. Fundamentally, we have to learn to be absolutely in tune with reality. I do not use the word optimistic. I do not use the word realistic, because realistic in some communist countries, it is just what Stalin wanted in the past. So I say in tune with reality. What is it to be in tune with reality? I told you that just watch the discrepancy between Middle Age, last century, and now. There's a big gap in the progress of science and technology. You cannot deny it. Somewhere consciousness also has evolved. If you observe, there is a rejection of institutions. All the institutions over the world, they have difficulty. Why? Because they don't get people to be committed in the thing, without exception. Unless that the guru, so-called cheap guru, would say, follow me, and I will give you paradise, and will you that and that. And you can see, historically, you can see many flops. Shameful flops for the guru and for the people, followers. So forget about those cheap gurus. Reject this, because it is the system of guru works against human dignity, meaning that you don't think by yourself, but you follow the thinking of the guru. Okay? So we don't talk about this. Now your question is that, how is it that now, if we wait until everyone realizes his own responsibility, the world can shrink into something dramatic? Don't panic. Don't panic. The world can shrink in something, meaning that the world of forms will change. Nobody can hold up the water. It is running under the bridge. It will run. It will ever run. So the forms will be transformed. I talk about the long run, not in 10 years, but in many centuries it will change. And still life is there. Life is there. It means that at a certain time one has to change the paradigm. So far we are living on the mode of struggling, killing all the bacteria, killing all the things. But they are the starting point for life on Earth. All the microorganisms. One part is living in the deep sea without oxygen, because at a certain time there's a scission between oxygen, no oxygen, and still life continues. The world will undergo big changes, and the big changes is not only on the outer world of forms, technology, everything, but inwardly. There's a kind of bigger sensitivity, so that people will feel. And of course, in this feeling, you can also have deviations. Every level you have deviations. You have the good feeling, nice sensitivity towards intuitive intelligence, the true one, completely in tune with reality. I insist upon this, in tune with reality.
In tune.
Yes, in tune, yeah. And then the other part, deviations, meaning that based on this evolution, the idea of evolution, people will imagine many things. Yes, I have this power, travel, astral plane, etc. You see all this on the market now, it is flourishing. But anyhow, so for me, it is just fake. And it just came out of imagination. There's no tuning with reality. This is very, very important. Very important because a little bit of spiritual growth will give freshness inwardly. And some people failed at that step because the ego will recuperate this and burst out in a kind of flare. You see? A flare. It is just a fire in one instant and finished. And so the ego deviates deviates the whole thing, check the energy, and it is a kind of stealing the energy from the cosmic system, blow it up, and then it explains how some people can fall in a certain circumstances, because in their mind there is this disconnection with reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us wrap up the whole conversation. Like, very shortly, if you would say one thought to our viewers, how to get in tune with reality, how to gain access to wisdom, like very shortly.
To be in tune with reality is to be wise.
Okay.
A wise person never loses feet on the ground of reality. And every level of existence, you have each one reality. Let us say the physical level. The reality of physical level is that there is gravity. You cannot deny this and jump out of the window saying that I am an angel, I'm flying.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Well, you can try.
No. If you are disconnected with reality, it is not even try, it is disconnected. Some people intoxicated by drugs or so conditioned by their own imagination, some imbalance, did it. So it is, you cannot deny reality of the thing. Now on other levels of existence, consciousness, you have also other levels of reality. And the reality of the higher levels of consciousness, if I may say so, do not fit with the needs of this level. Meaning that of this level, meaning material level, the condition is that every system tries to absorb. If you think in the physicist level, every level try to absorb and make grow and develop its own level. So the spirituality is this trend to limit the growth of materiality and transform this materiality into a higher state of consciousness. This is to be linked with matter, spirit, the two operation, crystallization and sublimation. And if this sublimation is well done, knowledge will be transformed into wisdom at a certain moment.
Okay, great.
Well,
yeah.
I try to make it short.
Okay.
A difficult subject.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I see that we can talk hours and hours, but we have to finish somewhere, right? So everything has a system. Even our talk has a system. Okay. Thank you so much for your visit. So I hope that we see you again in the studio.
Well, I am very pleased that there is this continuity and very sympathetic or welcoming and cooperation between us two. It is not a system, it is individuals meeting, and in this individuals meeting there is some quality which is sympathy, this is friendship, and this is the starting of something greater.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for our viewers, what can I say to sum it up? Do your own thinking process and follow your own heart. Thank you for your attention and goodbye.